Hello again, guys. I am back, and this week I'm going to bring you a tutorial on a tool I found really useful a while back, probably a year and a half ago now, but they updated it to a second version which is so much better than the first version, and I want to give you a tutorial on it. So the tool is called RailClone. It is made by iToo software, who makes ForcePack as well. RailClone comes with the Lite and a Pro version. The Lite one's free, which is the one we will be using for this tutorial. And what RailClone is it's a parametric modeling tool, therefore being much like the Loft tool in 3ds Max as it is right then. But the biggest difference is how detailed you can get into it. So really what you do is under the style editor, you have a linear generator that will take a spline and generate something around it. And then it will be able to generate something by default, something evenly, which is something every set amount distance that you set it. You'll have something every corner. You can have something at the start, at the end, and everything like that. So really, what it allows you to do is get big, gigantic arrays of stuff by modeling just one or two things. So if I not hide all here, this entire scene is made by these two pieces, and it's just copied over a bunch of times over top of these splines. So it's much like the Loft tool, however you have so much more control over it. So what we will be doing today is building like an office building or an office tower using just the RailClone tool, and I'll show you how to make a scene just using one or two objects, as well as some pre-built-in things that that RailClone lets you have. This is done with the free version. I'll link that to you in the description, as well as there's ForcePack there, which I would suggest you downloading. I think I will do a tutorial on that, but I have to remember which stuff I can do with the free and the pro, because I do have the pro version of that. So let's reset this and start working. So first what we want to do is I'm just going to go over quickly the RailClone itself. So when you install it, it'll actually be a regular installer. You'll get an iToo software under your Create panel, and RailClone Lite will pop up. Just drag it out into your desktop, or into your viewport. Drag it out into your viewport, and it doesn't matter what size it is because it's just the generator. Now what else you need for at least for the RailClone is a spline. The rest can be done inside it because they have some of their own primitives. So what you do then is you click your RailClone object, and you can choose your style. So if I pull this back over, they have a library browser there. You can buy some on their website, which is, I would say, probably worth it. You can see the same as RailClone Pro. There's a lot of things worth it on RailClone Pro. So let's say we want our curtain wall. All we do is do that, import. You can see the style pop up there. And we have to set the path, so we just click our spline right here and click there. And there we go. We have a curtain wall. Now it's much smaller. But the beautiful thing is we can just increase the radius of our spline, and because of the way the parametric modeling tool works, it automatically makes it to the same size as our tool. But I mean, these are great and all. We can go through all of our RailClone objects. Right now you'll see the RC thing has disappeared because that's not a RailClone object anymore. This is now a RailClone object, the windows. So if we want to change it up, we just click on here on the style editor, and we can change it to some molding. Import selected, and you can see right there it changes again, and it's just instant. That's a really nice molding actually. But I mean, there's not too many things right here. There's a lot more than there was in the first one, but we want to create our own. Like there's vinyl handrails, that was in the first one. The theater one's really cool. I'm gonna right there, theater seats, import. And okay, I guess it's not working as properly as I thought it would. It worked better with the last one, but this is, here, we'll just import this one. This is the basis of what you can get from their tools, but let's say you want to make your own things, and that's really what I want to show you right now. So again, let's reset this scene, and let's go through RailClone objects itself. So, I do not want to save it. That was my bad. No. Actually, let's go through it here. You can see, if I open up the style editor by clicking this little editor button, this is what you'll be working in primarily. So what they have is they have an object that is everyone by default. They have an object on the corners. They have an object that is every evenly, that is at the end and at the start. So what we need to do is create these models in 3ds Max as editable polys, and then we can set it up in this area to set up our own RailClone object. So what we'll do is reset this and start modeling those objects that will be used to set up our RailClone object. So we do not want to save this, and yes, I really want to reset. So first, just because we will be using the mental ray rendering system for the final renders, I like using decimal inches. And if you follow my tutorials a lot, you know that I love using decimal inches. So if I go under Customize, Unit Setup, decimal inches right there. Excuse me. Sorry, I was just getting a quick drink of water. So first what we're going to do is create a plane. Plane will be down on the ground like that. And since I want the walls of my of my object to be 10 feet tall, I'll make it 10 feet. And I usually think 7 feet as a width is pretty good. So we'll do that, and we'll zero out the length segments. Next we'll rotate this object by turning on angle snapping, pressing the A button. We'll rotate it up to 90 degrees. So it's just like that. Sitting right in the middle like that. Next what we'll do is we will convert this to an editable poly and connect these edges. So go hit ring, so it rings around these two edges, or you can just select the two edges by clicking that and that. I like using ring because it's easier. Hit the connect, but hit the options button so this window pops up, or these little buttons pop up. And we want to connect two edges, but we want the pinch to be 80, so that's up at the very top and very bottom. Press enter. And we will chamfer these edges by 2.5 inches, so 5 inches overall. And we'll pull back this middle piece 5 inches. So looking down at our y-axis on the bottom, I was pointing to the screen, I realized you couldn't see that. We'll move it around 5 inches back. So there we go. Something like that. Next what we want to do is select all of these and clear out all the smoothing groups because it doesn't look that good. There we go. Next what we want to do, is ring around this smaller polygon, connect it up, and make it 75. As well, we'll move it up just a touch. The other up, I meant down. There we go. And we'll extrude this window back -2. Now first what we have to realize is this piece, this short piece, will be tiled over a lot. So these little edges right here, these polygons on the edges, we need to make sure that we get rid of them, because if they were tiled then we would get little accents everywhere where those stopped and ended. So we need to make sure that the top or the sides are the exact same on both sides so it tiles nicely. As well, since we'll probably be moving this up and down, we need to make sure the top and bottom are easily enough tiled. That's why I started with the plane and moved everything back inside here, because I know that this polygon up here, this polygon up here, and this polygon up here are on the same plane. The rest into here doesn't matter as long as the edges match up. That's why I'm working on it like that. So next, that will be our windows. So what we want to do are our defaults. So what we want to do is go name this upper floors default, and I cannot spell. It's just because of my new keyboard. Keyboards actually have a lot to do with spelling. I don't know why. Next what we want to do is make the evenly. So the evenly is something that is on the object and evenly spread out throughout the RailClone object. So it can be anywhere from just a quick little box with something on it, which we'll make, to something very elaborate. And it's really good because you could make a dragon head in ZBrush, pull it in as an editable poly, and just evenly spread that out along the entire surface just to make it look really cool. And you can have some really nice medieval style things like that. It's very good for tiling objects like that. So that will be just a quick little thing. So what we'll do is create a box, which is 6 by 2 by 120. I go in my modifier panel. 6 inches long, 2 inches wide, and 120 inches tall. So that just evens out with our 120 inch tall middle ground. So I will even these things out. What I'm doing right here is you can see the snapping tool snapping to the midpoint. So really what I did is turn on snaps by using the S key and right click on the snaps toggle. I have vertex and midpoint turned on. These two, in my opinion, are the most important. The rest kind of don't necessarily need to be. But I like snapping things to the middle of other things, and I like snapping things to the vertex of other things. So those two I usually turn on. So to get to that again, you just right click on your snaps toggle up here, and this dialog pops up, and you turn snaps by pressing S. Most of you should know that, but just in case you don't. So right there is our evenly, and we can pull that back into it. Something around there. I mean, this will be moved around later, but we want a bit of detail to that evenly because it looks kind of lame right now. So we convert to an editable poly, take our vertex, select these two vertices down here, select these two vertices up here, and pull it out just a bit like that. As you can notice, because I selected two vertices before I connected this, so we'll ring around all four edges, connect them up, segments of 2, and pinch out to about 70, sorry. There we go. I was reading my notes wrong. Pull in this polygon back a bit, just to make it just before it goes up past here. So as you can see, right about there is where I want it. And we'll pull in this polygon back a bit too, just to make sure it goes past the glass part of it. Next, what we will do is select these two polygons, inset them by 0.25, 2.5. There we go. And we'll take the polygon back here, the polygon back here, and extrude that out by 2.5 as well. There we go. We have a bit more detail into that evenly. And as you can see, it looks like a metal piece that would go through a window just to hold up the window. So next what we are going to do is create the corner that will go on each of these boxes. So what we want to do is create the corner in the corner just to make sure it looks nice. And the corner will be 6 by 6 by 120. I can't read my notes. I'm reading way too far ahead. And make sure this is just set up in the same area so we can see how it will look when it is all evenly spread out. And there you go. It's a bit too far ahead, so we want to pull it back in like that. And next what we want to do is make sure that the box, when we convert to an editable poly by right-clicking Convert to Editable Poly, will kind of overlap all of these edges. So what we want to do is ring around all four edges again, connect them up, 2 and 70, just like our evenly. Press OK. And we'll just extrude, pressing F4 to see my wireframe, these four pieces, extrude, and extrude them by polygon. And we'll extrude them out 3.5 inches. And there you go. You can see that it automatically covers all of it up without kind of screwing up all this nice area we have going on in here. Next, what we can do is click these two polygons, inset them by 0.5, but make sure they're inset by the polygon themselves. Press OK, and we can bridge them by pressing the bridge key. Now as you can see, we get a nice little angled thing. It might be a bit too much, but I like that angle of it like that. And I do like this object in the middle to look at kind of like a drain spout or something. Press F4 to make sure it looks good, and there we go. Those are our three main objects for our windows. So next what we're going to do is create our RailClone object from these four. But what we need to make sure is that these four are just nice and black. So we'll hit the black key, go into our materials, make a standard material, and just click the gray material on it, just so it's easier to look at and easier to watch. So next what we want to do is create the spline that will be used for our entire building. So we're going to just move these strings out of the way and start creating the spline. As you can see, this is going to be one segment, so we want our spline to be pretty big. So if we go click line, Alt W out of there, and go to the top view to start creating our spline, zoom out a bit, and we'll just create a line that's kind of an interesting shape and that building could be in the shape of. So we'll kind of do like that, maybe move it up like that, and right about there, and then connect it up. We'll now see the close spline, press yes, and that is everything. As you can see, there is our spline. So next, what we're going to do is we have our spline ready. We have no RailClone object, and we have our objects ready. However, I kind of want to make our objects look more like the materials they should have on them. Now, the thing with RailClone is that it uses the material IDs from a multi-sub object. So It matters that you have the object, these material IDs set up properly on the object right now. However, it'll matter more for the material IDs on the RailClone object. I like putting the materials on first just to make sure it's the proper material ID. So to do that, we'll go into my materials editor, right-click materials, and make mental ray materials. If this does not show up, what you want to do is go under your rendering, render setup, pop this mental ray pops open, and under assign renderer, make sure that mental ray render is the one selected. It's not available for me here because it's already selected, but usually default scanline render is selected. Maybe iRay render. If you're in 2013 and 2014, it won't be mental ray render. It will be NVIDIA mental ray, I think, because they use NVIDIA now, which in my opinion is awesome because I love NVIDIA. But that is the way it is. So what we're going to do is right-click Materials, Mental Ray, Architecture and Design. Double-click on that one. And we'll just use a template. Now as you see, we made it out of a plane, so our glass will just be a thin geometry, glass for windows, pane, models, single faces. What this does really is under here, under advanced rendering options. I'm just going to make this smaller so I can see it. I'm working on my 30-inch monitor. Under advanced rendering options, it just makes sure the backface culling is turned off, so you don't see through the back of it. However, there's one thing I want to change here. Under the reflection transparency, I just want to drop that to 2.2 so it's a bit more reflective and a bit less transparent. So we will leave that as B. Next what we'll do is make a standard material, or mental ray material, architecture and design. Draw out that, double click that, and make that a brushed metal. Now I don't really like the color of the brushed metal, so under diffuse color, we will go and we'll change it to more of a bronze color, which will be 0.671, 0.62, and 0.529. Or if you just want your hue saturation right there. So this is the color we're looking for. I'll just pause it there so you can read the numbers off a bit quickly. Press OK. And there we go. Next what we want to do is create our multi-sub material. So under Material Standard, Multi-Sub Object, right there. And what we want to do is copy these two materials so these won't be affected when we're playing around with it in there. So we're just going to copy these three materials by control selecting all of them, copy and paste them over. Move our sub-object over here, double-click on our sub-object, and since there's only two materials, we set our number of materials to 2. Our glass will go in the material slot number 1, and our bronze material will go in material slot number 2. Nothing too big there. So what we want to do now is I'll move this over here, and I'll move this over here, is make sure that these are on the right areas. So we'll click on our corner piece. I didn't really do it properly. I apologize for that. Let's name these things really quickly. This will be our evenly, so upper floors evenly. And this will be our corner, upper floors corner. So that will be that. And now we will go to here. And we want our corner to be the brushed metal. We want our evenly to be the brushed metal. And we want our object right here. We want these top pieces to be brushed metal. And our bottom pieces to be brushed metal. So if we press that, press apply to material. And we want our centerpiece to be the glass. And there we go. We have all of the objects and materials set up. It's nothing too impressive, but it will look good when it's done. So we're done with that. We're done with our materials. Close that out. And done with that there. So we'll save this off as buildings. And next what we do is start creating a RailClone. So we'll go under Create Panel, under our iToo software, under RailClone Light, and drag it out just like we did in the first bit. Next what we will do is we will, instead of hitting None right here, we will open up the Style Editor. Now this Style Editor is where we start. This is so much better than it used to be. It's now a node-based editor instead of everything being in the modifier stack, which is just incredible. This makes working on it so much easier. So really what we want to do is we want a single spline, a linear generator based on a single spline. Sadly, I don't have the Pro Tool because, well, I don't want to spend $300 on it, or 300 euros or something crazy. And this works well enough for what I need. So we'll just drag in the linear 1S. If you try dragging the 2S, it says the RailClone Pro Advanced Features. We don't need that. So right now, let's go through this. We have the spline that we can attach to, which you know what it is, the clipping area, which is I think a pro feature. I've never used it, so I didn't use it before when this was older as well, and when I used RailClone a lot. The default, which is our windows, the start, which is the start of the spline, and the end, which is the end of the spline. However, since we have a looping spline, that's a closed spline, there is no start and end, so those are unnecessary for us. Evenly, which is spaced out evenly throughout the things, and corners, which is every vertex corner. It can be a Bezier corner, a regular corner, a hard corner, anything like that. As you can see, there is nice little objects to show you. Like the default, it's everything starts at the start and at the end. Evenly, there's little dots around it. Corners are at each corner. The spline and the clipping area, both splines. So really what we want to do is start adding in our objects. So we need a spline. That is very necessary. This is our spline. So we'll drop our spline, connect up the nodes, spline to spline, double click on our spline to bring this up, and our object will be line 01. So we'll just click on our line and it automatically sets it in there. Next what we want is our default. Sadly, it's not like the material editor where you can drag this out and it'll drop down a list, but it's still pretty simple. We just drop in our segment, and our segment will go to default. Now you can see there's nothing showing yet, so what we need to do is select our object and click on our default. As you can tell, it's kind of awkward right now, but as if you remember from the beginning of our object, we rotated the X 90 degrees, and it was negative 90 degrees. That was just to make sure that the plane which we created flat was on its upward, so it would be easier to work with. But it doesn't take that transformation into account because we didn't freeze them or we didn't reset the X-form transformations. So what we need to do in our upper floor's defaults is we need to make sure that there's a negative 90 rotation towards it so we can actually have it. So if we go under go under transform, should be able to rotate the 90 up. Now as you can see, that doesn't work because I'm silly and I'm talking about our X rotation here under our entire linear stack. So if we go under properties and we hit 90, you can see that it's rotated up, but it's backwards, so we could try negative 90 if I click in there. And as there we go, it's the proper way right now. So we have our object set up at negative 90, our X rotation, because we rotated our default down right there. Next, what we want to do is drop in our boxes and stuff. So to do that, easy thing, we take our object again, another segment, and we drop into the evenly. As you can see, you understand why I renamed it now, because the names are taken on from the object it takes in. And segment, if we click object and we click our evenly, you can see that it's in there right now. However, it is going a bit wonky. You can see that our evenly is rotating down a bit, and you can see that our padding is a bit wonky there as well. So what we need to do is we need to change some rules in our segment. First, what we need to do is we need to make sure that our evenly is the proper distance apart. So we wanted around 70 or 84 inches, or every 7 feet. So we type in 84, and there we go, it's every 7 feet. It's nicely justified across everything, but it's still rotated weirdly, and it is still pulling out the padding here. So what the RailClone does is every evenly it adds in, it cuts off the default, and it makes sure that it uses the bounding area of our box, of our object that it has. So the bounding box is the edges of it, but we want it to continue on behind the evenly. So to change that, what we want to do is we want to change the padding on the default and on the evenly. It matters which one, because our default, you can see our left and right, is padding is now at 0. What we want to do is change that to -6 because our evenly is 6 inches across. And it's a bit more than that because our clipping box was a bit bigger than 6 inches. So we changed it to -7. As you can see, there's no overlap anymore, or there's the overlap that we wanted, and there's no holes in it anymore. As well, what we can do to make sure that this is aligned is we go into our rotation here, our transform, under our evenly, so we go to transform, and we rotate the object. So we want it -90 degrees, and there we go. Now we could have done that with the default as well, but it's easier to do default in the linear area. I just find it easier to do that way personally, even if we might have to change around some of these things. But there we go, we have her evenly set up there nicely, and I like it how it is looking right now. But we need our corners. We forgot the corners right here. So under corner, we will drop in another segment, drop in corner, and we will just click on our corner object. Click on it like that, and as you can see, there are some problems there, and that's completely normal. First, what we need to do is it's bending with our corner. So our corner right here is a corner Bezier corner. So every corner Bezier corner there will put one of those objects in, as well as aligning it to path, which we do want. However, under our corner, we don't want it to bend like that. So under deform, we just turn off bending. And under a corner deform, we turn off bending. As there you go, you can see it like that. As well, we want the transformation to be -90 again, just like our evenlies. And it sets it up nicely like that. But if you can zoom in on, if I can zoom in on it properly ever, I'm going to do just a quick little trick I know to zoom in on something properly. Create a little box near the area that I want to zoom in on. Press Z to zoom in, and just move the box around until I'm zoomed into the place I want to be. Now, as you can see, it's kind of offset in the wrong way. We want it to be rotated a bit more parallel or perpendicular to the spline instead of parallel to it. So we'll go to our RailClone tool, open up the style editor. We have to go and modify our panel, and this floater will open up. So we'll go to our corner, and under our transform, we can rotate it. As you can see, like that, nicely rotated, and I'll just rotate it in -45 degrees. And there we go, kind of just sitting like that. And as you can see, we created a nice little wall for a building very quickly, and from 3 pieces really, but very quickly, and it's nicely set up. And it's got some good detail on it. I mean, you can easily detail it more here, and it'll update here. So if I take my evenly, and this is just a cool thing about it, take my evenly, start changing around and upgrading it. So I'll extrude this out just a bit. Doesn't really matter what I do. Drop it down a bit like that, and there we go. We have a bit more detail on it. Actually, we have no more detail. It just looks stranger. It will be automatically updated on every single one of these evenly, so you don't have to worry about instancing. You don't have to worry about anything like that. Any changes you make to your source objects will automatically be recompiled and put into here as well. So that is just a really cool thing that it does for us. So next, what we need to do is we need to add the materials to this. So we'll hit the M for materials, and we'll take this multi-sub material and add it to it. Now, as you can see, there's some problems here. You can see the glass being on some of the weird materials, and the metal is just not perfectly right. Now, this is an easy fix. If we go under material editor again by pressing M, we can see that our glass is material sub 1 and our metal is material sub 2. So our polygons on here are just not all the proper material subs. So we have to click the element, click the entire polygon. As you can see, all the polygons are selected. So if we click the entire element, it selects all polygons. We'll clear off all the smoothing grooves because we don't need them. And under our material IDs, you can't see there's an ID set. So what we want to do is set that ID to 1, because the first ID was, or to 2, because the second ID, sorry, was the metal ID. If we go under materials, you can see the metal was our second ID. So we'll just click that one, and it'll be fine. And now we will do the exact same with our, clear all the with our corner, clear all the groups, and set the material ID to 2. Now, as before, it automatically updates everything. It automatically updated the material IDs, and there you go. It's perfectly set up. So that is how you will create a wall. Now we just want to create this into more of a office building. So all we have to do is drag this up and leave it about there. Now we can't copy it because RailClone doesn't like copying things necessarily. It's because it won't allow it to have more than one generator, or one generator do more than one thing due to the limitations of the light feature. So if you just hit instance, it allows you to copy it nicely and leave it like that. If you hit copy, you just have to copy the entire thing, I think. So copy the spline as well. So we just move up the spline as well, and copy should work for it. There you go. So as long as we move up the spline as well with it, we can copy it instead of instance it. And now we'll just keep doing that. and we'll move it up. And I want this floor to be like for about 10 floors. 2, 3, 4, 5, 8. 8 more floors. There we go. And there we go. We have an office building. That's just the exact same thing over and over again. But it looks like an office building does because office buildings are the exact same thing over and over and over again. And it's an easy way to do it. But I kind of want a building that looks a bit different. Easy enough to do. What you do is we copy off the entire spline and the object as well. I'll do it from the bottom because I don't really want to move up the top as well. So there we go. We have our entire spline. And we'll move this building over here. We'll click on our RailClone object. Make sure that this is working properly. We'll find our spline, select our vertexes, and move them around. As you can see, everything updates automatically with it. But really what I want to do is I want to make this a more circular one. So we'll select all the vertices and hit Bezier corner. And I'll reset the tangents. And there you go. It's a very smooth corner and circular building. And everything updates exactly to the object. As you can see, the evenlies, the corners, everything is just updating perfectly. So what I'm going to do is create this and move this up a bit more. And as you can see, you can get some nice looking buildings just by using 3 objects. Move it up 8, and there we go. So there's another building. And if you want to, and when you get more creative with it, you can create more of these objects and just create more different building looks. And one more last building before we go into rendering. So we'll select all those. There's the bottom of that one. And I'll move it over to about here. And let's move this building. Let's have it a bit more U-shaped. So we'll pull that one around there, pull this one out to about here, and right now I'm just creating buildings. And you can create buildings like this too. So there we go, have something like that. Yeah, it'll be a really short, skinny building, just because I wanted it to look like that. And we will do the exact same thing with copying. Make sure the spline is selected or RailClone will not let you do it very easily. So we'll copy it out, and we'll make this one 13 floors tall. As you can see, there's a lot of objects on the screen, but because this is all dynamically created, it doesn't lag at all. Like, it is smooth. I'm still probably getting around 150 frames in my viewport. But there's so many objects in here. As if I turn on F4, you can see all of the polygons that it's setting up. So we got our buildings right here, but really I want something in the middle. So remember how I said they have their own little things? We can easily create a little circle of things in the middle. So we just create a circle, make sure that the radius is 500. There we go, something like that. Go under our RailClone tool again, under iToo software, and drag out the RailClone tool. I have a lot of iToo software things. And from there on, we will go and under our style editor, hit the None button, and I want something exterior. So we got facades, don't really want a facade or a sunshade, we got fences, we got interiors, we want something under part. We got benches we could put in, or let's see if there's any, we could put in street lights, we could put in concrete bridges, but we can just put in something really easy. So we'll put in a sidewalk. And then there's sidewalk. We'll just have the sidewalk because this is the one that comes with it. Import selected. And we need to select our spline. So click on None and click on our spline. And there we go, our sidewalk. So what we can do now is under our spline, if we can find it, what we can do is also just select, there's our spline. And we can just make the radius huge. And rotate and have a spline and walkway that goes all the way around like that. So there we go. We have all of that set up nicely. And these are going to be a bit short because we want to look at it from right down here. So we want this building to be a bit taller. And select the building, just make sure which one it is. It is this one. And let's see if I can figure out a way to select it easier. There we go, perfect. And just move that up about another 10 floors. There we go. So next what we're going to do is create a camera in this view by pressing Control-C. Alt-W out of that and pressing the P key as well to go back out of our camera. We are going to create a plane by going under Standard Primitive Plane, dragging it out all across the bottom of this, and this is all set up for rendering. Dragging it out the bottom across there and making it 10,000 by 10,000 inches. No, 100,000. 1, 2, 10, 100, 1, 2, 3. No, I was right. Let's make it 25. Yeah, 25,000 by 25,000 inches. There we go. And hitting C to hit the camera again. Pressing the M for the materials. Creating a mental ray material. Architecture and design. And this will just be a basic gray material that I like putting on as my ground plane. So we will just turn the reflectivity off and put the ground plane on like that. Next what we will do is under create a sunlight or daylight system, and this dialog button will pop up, the MR photographic exposure control. Press yes. If that doesn't pop up, you can just go into 8 and under environment you just select MR photographic environment control. If that button doesn't pop up, just only do that. And now we select these. There we go. Select, click and drag. Right click to end the creation of it. Under our parameters we will go MR sky and MR sun. If this pops up, we'll do that again. If it doesn't pop up again, press 8 and under here click on the environment map. MR physical sky will pop up there and you can just put it in there. So there we go. I'll hit C to go to my camera, and I'm already in my camera, so I need to make sure that I can modify it. I'll just go select my name and select my camera. There we go. Select my camera, not both of them. There we go, camera 1. And I will change my field of view to around 40, 50. And we'll just leave it like that. It's nothing, this isn't meant to be a rendering tutorial, but it is meant to make the RailClone things look pretty. So we have been able to create 3 objects that have been parametrically copied over a spline, and the spline can be modified afterwards, making it really easy. As well, we have used one of the pre-built-in ones to make a little sidewalk between our entire buildings. This can be easily created more if if you want to go deeper into it, have more objects and everything, but this is just a quick tutorial to show you how to use RailClone. So we'll render this out, and I hope you enjoyed it. Cheers! As right now, I just realized I cut it off really quickly just before it popped up with a dialog warning box. When it's rendering and it says RailClone wants to use these settings, do you want to change it? Just press yes. It makes it easier for the rendering and mental ray renderer to know how to handle these objects just because of the way RailClone works and the parametric modeling tools work. So when the dialog box press up when you want to render, just press yes and it'll work perfectly fine. Cheers, and sorry about that.